Hi, my name is Phil Conway and I'm with Rosen Associates. This video is primarily for the 200 or so licensees of our prospect risk analysis software, which includes the EUR Single Zone and Chance Assessment Tool, MMRA. And this video deals with how to import those MMRAs into RoseRA. If you have not seen our introduction to RoseRA video, we suggest you check out that for more details on a lot of the other functionality that I'll not be showing in this video, but is present in the tool. So here we are on the home page, and I would like to start by importing from MMRA. I first need to select the MMRA that will serve as the prospect master. So by prospect master, we mean that this will be the default units and the prospect text inputs that relate to all the zones in the prospect. So let's go ahead and select that MMRA that we want to assign to be the prospect master. So it's now opened that MMRA and it's validating, as you'll see here, the data within it, and it's loading the zone, and it's now finished. So that now serves as the prospect master, and I now want to add the other zones in this prospect to the analysis. So I've now selected the second zone. It's going to go through the process of validating the data. You'll notice here that we have something called a view log, and that's a log file that's generated that shows what data we're checking. It was verified, it was checked, it was fine, it moved on. If you do encounter any problems, the log file will show where the problem was occurred, and you can fix the issue and reload the file. So let's just open the final zone, and we're almost there. So now let's finish. And now that we've loaded the three zones, we can see them populated in the setup window. And for those that have not seen RoseRA before, the workflow is from top to bottom. There are some inputs relate to the prospect, all the zones, and then I work on the individual zones, put in my chances, dependencies, and then some aggregation facilities that I'll show you in a second. But here that I can see that I've loaded up my three zones, and what I actually want to do is to rename those zones, and I'm going to call them Z1A, Z2A, and Z1B. And this is just to help me when I come to setting up the zones belonging into a fault block or a stratigraphic unit. I can easily assign them from my zone names. If I scroll to the right, I can see information about the units that I've set up for this particular prospect, and I can now scroll through the data and to see what it's actually loaded. So this is my prospect text data that it took from that initial MMRA, and I can see the products that I'm going to model, oil and solution gas, for each of the zones. Let's look at the individual zone rock volumes and ensure that everything looks okay. So we can see here we have the first zone, the Z1A. We're using an AreaNet Pay method. I can see all my inputs. And when I open up the rock volume page, it's already run a mini simulation, so I can actually see the GRV, the NRV reports of the percentiles, the distributions, and I can inspect the other zones as well that I've loaded up just to make sure that I'm okay with the inputs and the mini sim results. I also have to look at the oil and gas yields if I want to. And this is much the same. I'm just QCing the inputs. I can see here that I've actually loaded some correlations, which is displayed here. And I can scroll down, look at the mini-sim yield data, scroll back up and inspect the other zones. Very easy, quick to inspect. And now what I'd like to do is to put those zones into the correct stratigraphic level. So I can see that I have the Jonathan Loeb 1 and 2, and they are both in the same stratigraphic level. So when I toggled on that with a click, it put the same two zones into the stratigraphic level. So when I run the analysis, RoseRA will calculate not only the zone, the aggregate for the 3 zones, but also for the stratigraphic level as well. Let's move on to the prospect segment, or fault block as many people call it. And here I want to say that there's actually 2 zones in one particular fault block. So that's my Z1A and my Z1B. So now if I look on the right hand side, I've said that those 2 zones belong in the same fault block. I could also here set up some commercial thresholds. I could model some chance dependency between the zones, but just for the sake of expediency, I'm just going to run this model, and we'll run 1,000 trials. And as this is running, we can get ready to look at the results, which are displayed in several different tables and charts. So let's proceed. And let's expand this view just so we can see it a little bit easier. But if I go to my histogram chart, I have access to the prospect data, which is the black bars. I also can look at the individual zones and see the reverse cumulative probability of exceeding a particular mean value and how the zones compare to each other. And I can commit that chart to a display, and so I can see the zone contributions to the overall as well as the aggregate of scatter charts, reverse cumulative charts. As I said, the introductory video provides a little bit more detail about each of these. If I go to the summary input-output table, I can see all the geologic resources, and if I've put in a commercial threshold, I can see the commercial resources above the threshold, see the prospect chance of success, my in-place, my recoverable for each of the different oil and gas products, and so on. So this is for the actual prospect aggregate, but I could also look at the stratigraphic level resources. And so this is reported in this table here. So now I'm just looking at that stratigraphic level of those 2 zones. I could also proceed just to look at the fault block resources as well, the resources in a single fault block. So each of the aggregates that I've assigned are accessible in terms of all the results from the input summary table, and also in the geologic decision tree and in the trial data table, which provides me all the percentile inputs and outputs for all the data, and I can slice and dice that by the zone, by the total aggregate, the stratigraphic level, or the fault block prospect segment as well. I can also filter the results on percentiles as well. So if I just wanted to look at the P50, I could say let's just look at the P51 to P49, and then I'll see the trials below that provide me that detail. And I can also look at other ways to look at the data and sort the data using these filtering tools. So that concludes the presentation. This did not take very long to load 3 zones, to set them into stratigraphic units and into fault blocks, and to do an aggregation and inspect the results. I hope this proves useful, and we look forward to the opportunity to provide you more detail about RoseRA in the future. If you have any further questions, please contact myself, Phil Conway, or David Cook. To request a trial or more information, you can also visit our website, which is shown on the slide there. Thank you very much for your attention. Bye.